and welcome to a special Oyster Stew podcast series presented by Oyster Consulting and Morgan Lewis. This week's episode is the first of the series. We hope you'll continue to listen, and we look forward to engaging you in the AI conversation.
With the evolution of AI and the vast frontier facing the financial services industry, Oyster Consulting and Morgan Lewis have partnered to bring to light some of the critical challenges, threats, risks, and the opportunities that we're all thinking and talking about. Everywhere we turn, we're all hearing about AI. We have set up this podcast series to share our unique perspectives on what we are seeing in the wealth management space from the legal, compliance, and regulatory perspectives, along with practical applications from trading, supervision, surveillance, risk management, vendor management, and operations and technology viewpoints. The team of experts joining me today are Carolyn Welshhans, a partner at Morgan Lewis in the Securities Enforcement and Litigation Group, where she advises and defends financial institutions, companies, and their executives in investigations by the SEC and other financial regulators. Prior to joining Morgan Lewis, Carolyn held a number of senior leadership roles at the SEC, including Associate Director of the Division of Enforcement and Acting Data Officer for the division. Dan Garrett, a Managing Director at Oyster Consulting with 30 years of wealth management experience, working at RIAs, broker-dealers, and clearing and custody firms, running operations and technology groups. At Oyster, Dan provides technology consulting and is leading our AI service offerings. Jeff Gearhart, also Managing Director at Oyster Consulting with 35 plus years of capital markets experience in senior leadership roles with institutional broker-dealers. At Oyster, Jeff leads the capital markets consulting services. And me, your host, Pete McAteer, a Managing Director with 25 years in financial services in my 13th year with Oyster, leading many of Oyster's management consulting engagements that include firm strategic direction, platform strategy decisions, as well as execution with a focus on readiness and change management. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be focusing on the power, the real potential of AI in financial services. So Dan, I'm going to start with you first. Can you share an example of where AI has significantly improved compliance or operational efficiency in a financial firm?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. We're seeing lots of places where AI is being applied within the compliance realm. A lot of firms are starting to use it now, and we're seeing a lot of applications, well-known applications. These are existing compliance applications that are enhancing their application to have AI capabilities within it. This isn't necessarily new startups, although those are out there, and we're seeing more and more of those enter into the infrastructure. But these are existing applications that many firms are using. It's important for firms to go back and look at their current vendors and see what applications are being enhanced and having AI included in it to look for those opportunities. But specifically what I wanted to talk about is email review. In the past, it's been very lexicon-based, where you have a long list of bad words that you're searching through emails, trying to find potential alerts. And that creates a lot of just false reporting that has to get done because the lexicon is not smart. There's no context. If you say, I guarantee I'll meet you for lunch on Friday at noon, it gets flagged because of the word guarantee. And what we're seeing now is with generative AI, the ability for it to actually read the email, not just having the lexicon, but understanding the context of the email and then alerting based on that context. So it's reducing a enormous amount of workload that these email review folks need to go through to sift through all of these emails, get them reviewed, improved, and move on. So that's one area that I think has had the biggest impact, and we're seeing adoption for. But there are others.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of that throughout the industry and some of the conferences that we're going to. A lot of AI applications are seeming to help streamline and cut through that and get some of that off of our plates. So yeah, email review is a primary example of that for everyone. Carolyn, from the regulatory perspective, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Dan. I think even before getting into a discussion of, okay, well, then what are the risks and what do you got to think about when it comes to regulators? I think it's important to start with what are the promises and the potential of AI. And I agree that, it's very flashy. It's the hit topic right now, the in topic, everybody thinking about how it's exciting. But I think those back office implications of it and use cases are really important ones, and a good place to start thinking about whether it makes sense to start adopting AI into an organization and where they can really use it to look for efficiencies. And I think that email compliance review is a really important consideration.
So, Pete, one of the other areas that we're seeing, outside of the compliance area is operational efficiencies throughout the firms. And we're seeing this, AI has been used quite a bit at some of the larger firms. What we're seeing is some of the smaller, mid-sized firms starting to adopt AI tools, especially generative AI within operations and workflows. One of the big features that we're seeing is note taking. There was about seven or eight different firms out there that are actually providing note taking capabilities for financial advisors that are listening into client calls, recording them, storing them, and allowing you to then chat with the chatbot about the calls. What did we talk about? Summarizing the takeaways. What are the next steps? What are the things that we need to do? The next iteration of that is we'll start seeing agentic AI that'll be doing something with that information. So if the conversation is talking about opening up accounts, we can see it then take the information that it gathered from the call and apply that information into an account opening form, which is then sent off to the client. Not quite there yet. I think that's one of the areas that's getting done. But coming back to, these types of things, and to Jeff's point, some of the areas around, automation and just letting things run, it proposes a lot of risk. And so in loop is what it's called, where we have somebody, an individual, financial advisor, an operations person that is reviewing what the AI is doing, approving it before it takes action. Those are some of the things that need to be in consideration, as we kind of implement some of these tools. And, talking about risk, I think this is where the risk gets elevated again with these tools automating some of these processes, and it has a great opportunity to improve efficiencies, but it also provides, some risk if it's not applied correctly.
Thanks, Dan. And again, it's about monitoring, oversight, governance, understanding what's happening, and just ensuring that you're not letting the AI bot run the business. That's super important. All right, now, Carolyn, what legal considerations should firms keep in mind when deploying AI in their client-facing services?
So here I'm going to focus specifically on considerations when it comes to financial regulators such as the SEC or FINRA, as opposed to, much broader legal considerations. And there's certainly a lot of them when it comes to AI. But specifically from an SEC perspective, for example, the SEC is first and foremost a disclosure agency. And so whether we're talking about public companies and their investors, or we're talking about regulated entities such as broker-dealers and investment advisors and their clients, the SEC is going to care most about what are clients being told about the use, the risks, et cetera, of AI. And does that match what is actually happening? And we've seen some of these types of cases brought by the SEC already. They've been referred to as AI washing cases. And that's where the SEC alleges that there's a big disparity between what is being told to clients versus what is actually being done with AI. And the SEC alleges not much, if anything at all, is being done with the AI. But there are a lot of other implications that financial firms should be thinking about when they're using or contemplating using AI in client-facing ways. Financial institutions, for example, have very specific policy and procedure requirements that might be implicated regarding privacy, cybersecurity, and books and records, for example, when it comes to AI. And in turn, those could implicate issues of supervision and compliance at financial firms. And then a final issue to keep in mind is that financial institutions should consider the implications for how AI is used in trading. And I think, this is going to be a topic that we're going to continue to discuss on this series. But that could implicate issues such as net capital or the market access rule or other very specific regulations that have to do with trading that the SEC has used to bring cases in the past with algorithmic trading, for example. And they may view AI as sort of the next natural extension of that with implications for trading.
Great stuff there, Carolyn. Thank you. Jeff, I'm going to turn to you. Anything to add?
I'm thinking of it more from a practical aspect in terms of legal considerations when adopting or using AI models. There's the whole security of information aspect, what the models are sourcing, how it's retained, whether there's PII or anything like that involved in the data sets. So there's the whole security aspect around those models. But perhaps the bigger one that jumps to mind is avoiding conflicts of interest. So for example, you're creating trading models that can make decisions based on data and trading activity and continue to learn. Well, they very logically could decide that favoring for the firm's order flow over client order flow would improve profitability and be pretty efficient, except it's not legal. So you always have to put the client order first. So you really have to build some guardrails and some oversight over the models. And because they're continually learning, you have to continually evaluate and maintain oversight. It's a lot of work. It greatly improves trading, but there's a lot of things to consider in terms of how the models can act.
Yeah, some great points. And you mentioned you start talking about algorithmic trading and the data that those algos may be accessing. And I immediately started to think about Reg ATS, Rule 301B10, and protecting confidential trading information for some of these ATSs. So really some important thoughts there on how we handle and protect data as these AI models are obviously deeply driven and dependent upon vast amounts of data. So what data is being accessed?
Yeah, really good point, Pete. And we have direct experience with some of our clients who have let those guardrails down. So not something to fall asleep on.
Yeah, guardrails, safeguards. I think that's what the rule uses, right?
Yep.
All right. So great. Thank you. Dan, data and tech, that's your world. Any thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just kind of add to what Jeff was saying. Bias is a real big concern. As these models are learning, as they're changing, as they're adapting, and so forth, you may get results that you don't wish to achieve. And it's a real problem and an issue where the firms need to be testing and show that they're testing for bias. And that's not something that you can, just get away from. It's something that you need to understand these models. You need to understand the logic that they're going through when they make their decision making. Have some audit trails potentially on within certain applications, but also just be showing that you are testing and looking for these biases that you don't want the model to be learning over time.
Awesome. Yeah, that's checks and balances and controls, testing, making sure you know what's happening behind the scenes. That's critical. Okay, anything else to add on the legal considerations we should be thinking about?
Just want to say, I think you all made excellent points. And I know we're keeping this high level, but just think about the references you've already made to the things that algos and AI, when you're using them at trading, need to keep in mind. We've referenced some specific rules. And so I think that just reflects the importance of, again, this is a technology that has incredible potential, but I think important to really take a look at the very intricate rules and regulations that are already on the books and how those might be implicated and how to plan ahead so that you are keeping everything in mind and making sure, that you're going to avoid interest from the SEC. And if you do, you guys have already started alluding to, I think some documentation and thinking about how to explain exactly what your model is doing.
Jeff, from your experience in capital markets, how is AI transforming trading desk operations and risk management?
I think there's an important point here from a trading aspect, from a front office aspect. AI and modeling has been in use for quite a long time. In fact, I saw a recent statistic that AI strategies are driving over 70% of equity trades now. So it's very, very present, just given its ability to analyze huge amounts of data. It's bringing trade efficiency, speed to the marketplace. But I think it's moving into the operational processes, even from from the likes of DTC adopting it into their processes. And where I'm seeing it being used is certainly, what Dan indicated on the email reviews, but it's also being used by risk management for analyzing large amounts of data, doing the predictive analysis, and evaluating models and seeing not only where the current risk is, but where the firm may be going. And then also it can be employed in trade surveillance. Again, the ability to analyze the data, apply some models, see where the trades might be going, maybe actually connect some trades, and really identify either bad trading habits, manipulative habits, or even in some cases fraud. So it's really pretty cool how it can be applied to some of these other processes away from trading.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of our special AI series from Oyster Consulting and Morgan Lewis. We hope our conversation gave you new insights into how AI is shaping the future of financial services. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes as we continue exploring the legal, compliance, and operational impacts of AI. For more information about our experts and our services, visit our website at oysterllc.com. Thanks for listening.